Okay. This is a excerpt from a piece that I wrote a little while ago. It's titled, From When the Summer Left.
It was one of those days when you had basically nothing to do, sitting on the front porch. So I looked up a little more, slightly by slightly.
And you lay your head down on the ground, in the grass, inside of it, between the bugs. And through the rock, you hear the waves crash against the cliff face. And you close your eyes and you hear the laughs and cries of faces you've never seen, like that from the abstract artist who's too paranoid to form any structure in case he begins to see more of himself than not. Or better yet, the minimalist whose opinion he casts down on abstraction for trying to be anything at all. And it's not that I have no more thoughts or that they're too ambiguous, it's just that it takes so much to prepare for their judgment. Hold on. Hi, sorry. I just wasn't expecting the, so I have like a, oh, fuck, sorry. So I have like a short story that I want to tell you now. It's like barely even a page. So it's about like an artist that I met. Okay. I'm like fucking unprepared or something. None of this is making any sense. Okay. I made an escape from the world around me and went to Paris. It was for 2 days and I did not have much fun. I found myself bored and uninspired and waiting for something magic to happen, for it to hit me all at once, but it never did. To my own fault, I paraded around in my finest rags and stood on street corners that smelled of urine and gazed at odd structures. Out of everything, though, I did seem to find a cafe I enjoyed. Café de Metro, just a few steps south of my hotel. I visited both nights and had a bread and ordered coffees and talked to smoking strangers, only to try and gauge their life and compare it to my own. Ooh. Sorry. A week later, I think they were growing tired of me. I tried to get service from a waiter mumbling something about the weight, or the weight of his tray, or très fatigué. Sorry, très fatigué. Now there was nothing here to help me. There was nothing back home to help me. Night fell. A sobbing glow began to take over the blackened sky. People yelped. Others ran indoors. Kissers stopped kissing or didn't. Passing tires began to hiss. Drinks began to prickle. The old awning beside my lounging shoes began to restlessly tap to the tempo of beaten pavements. A collection of thoughts began to pool inside my head. An ambush of opinions about my own failures, which is a despicable onslaught and one which I could not have forestalled, for I have not yet succeeded, so there really is only failure to think of. I thought of my time as a poser, as a struggling man pretending to be a great one. I felt the urge to leave and to cry. Holding tight an empty bottle, I roamed the vacant streets in the pissing rain. I think of what poor decisions have led me here, to this exact moment. I think of the people I used to know, the friends I used to have, the lovers I used to love, all of which I must have wronged in some way, awfully and unfairly, and that's the only memories that they must have of me. The probable truth is much more tragic. For now I have these memories of people for longer than the times that I actually knew them. They probably all have completely forgotten me. I returned to my hotel and I could not face the outdoors for a while. It was about a month later that I finally returned to Café de Metro. The walls had been repainted and there was a new waiter. Most of my money was gone by that point and I was thinking of returning home, but when I arrived there was a man in my usual seat, one who I had not seen before. He had bread on the table, like me, and a notebook, like me, and he dressed well. He had a short black hair, an odd stubble, and a Saxon nose, and difficult to wear jewelry on his fingers, but he pulled it off. I attempted to sit him, but for as long as I waited, he just continued to sit there, never once attending to the outside world. I think he was drawing in that notebook the way his pen was working the page. I grew tired of waiting, for if this was my final night here, not an extra second would be wasted on waiting for it to begin. I said, I need to sit here, for this is where I sit, and this is my final night in Paris, and as such, this night must be designed perfectly. He looked up at me and closed his notebook. He gestured to the guesting chair. Then have a seat. Okay, whatever. He told me he was a writer, residing south. I told him I was an artist too, although I had nothing to show of it because I hadn't really started yet. He looked me in the eyes. You've traveled far, but you haven't gotten anywhere. Hours soon began to pass. He told me stories of old lives, his friend's insurance fraud scheme, his time touring with a theater company. Like everything that came out of him was just a little bit musical. He embellished his stories with as many intricacies as his drink. I fogged up my wine glass with every joke he cracked. He smelled like coffee down to the roots of his hair. Come back with me, he said, finally, as I fumbled for the right card to pay for my half of the bill. Come, you want to be an artist? There is always something to learn from somebody who has found his medium. I thought for a moment. I thought of back home and how miserable that would be. So with a stomach that would only be full for the next couple of hours, I set off along the path of least resistance. His house was small and creaky. Canvases and books decorated the floor like rugs. I was surprised to see how he treated his own work. I thought maybe he didn't respect it, but later I came to learn that he just knew how resilient his work was. He'd write only in the bath, on paper, and with ink. He'd put on a record that sounded something like Bill Evans, but wasn't. Upon them, slow-spinning titles were imprinted in white ink with names like Jazz, Improv number 6, and I think of how someone could have ever just made that up, but they did. He dripped out his sentences like Jackson Pollock. He said they never really made any sense to him. Something about the structure was always wrong. He said that's why he's never been published. I came to learn that he had been approached about it numerous times, but he's turned down every offer politely. He'd say, "What good would fame bring to me but a push to continue? One I do not need. I'm perfectly content with writing purely on my own accord. I don't need to be distracted by the success of my own work, only to fail by the success of my own work, only to regain a conclusion that a perception of my work by others should not matter to me, which is a conclusion that I've already started with." You see? I did not see. His skin was sunset golden. Sweat beads sat patiently on his forearm. I watched him. I was either a pervert or he was a muse. Whichever one he thought of us as, I didn't want to know. He certainly did not think of us as us. He never showed me what he wrote. And I never asked. A week turned into 2 months. I didn't worry so much about making money after meeting him. I made my wages by helping a strange group of hairy people rebuild a villa about an hour's bus ride south. They were really good at playing guitar, really poorly, but it always ended up sounding kind of beautiful when at 3 p.m. they echoed down the mountain range after an exhausting day. By 5 p.m. I was home watching him bathe. By 6 he was watching me. We fell into a sort of routine this way. See, he was not a man who perplexed himself with things like chargers or playback. He did not muddy his life with modern intricacies. He had the spirit of a flower, one that so as long as it had water and sunshine, it grew. 2 months turned into 6. From spring to autumn I lived with him. Then, one evening, while I was out getting us milk, he slipped while getting out the bath, and he cracked his skull open. I imagine he must have died moments after. I did not stay for the service. I don't know what I could have said. I didn't speak French anyways, and I never really knew him. I only knew him by the way he described his work, which I never read. He must have knocked over a candle when he fell. I found the entire house going up in flames. His name was misspelled in the obituary, and not a single copy of his work survived.
What is your personal definition of success? I link my achievement with my fulfillment. You know, everybody has a different definition of success, which is never fulfilled because they're like, oh fuck, I'm here. What do I do now?
And the culture I brought up is basically that you need to have a lot of money. It's not about wealthy, not about being wealthy like fucking rich.
Again, I've lived on the 21st fucking floor. if I count it on my fingers, there was 15 times when people visited my apartment, and I was like, yeah, that's fulfillment. You know, when you ride a train, the train stops at every station, but you don't get off at every station. There is always that moving on
My moment
plan.
24 right now. Yeah, I'm not being
successful enough.
Those are the things where the train stops at, but not where I get off at. You know that, okay, what station I need to get off at, the destination. Life is suffering. I have bought the ticket for life. Actually, what's your definition of success? Getting the next train.
Well, the last time I saw him alive... well... he had his arm around me. It was a sunny day and he said, "Let's go down to the beach and watch the clouds float by." I said, "Okay, that sounds nice. What do you want to do after that?" He said, "One thing at a time, man."